So like I mentioned, if you come in to do research, you're going to stop at the registration desk, you're going to get a library card. For your second visit, you just show us your library card and we read the barcode and wand you through. Once you come in, we'll have you lock up bags and purses in the lockers. That's so you're not tempted to take anything home with you, and we don't have to police you as you move from one area to the next. The general rule of thumb in our reading rooms is that when you're in one room using collections, those collections stay in that room, and it's only with a reference archivist's permission that stuff can move into the microfilm room from the main reading room, and vice versa for the microfilm collections. But we're going to start by going into the main reading room and seeing that space. Okay, everybody remember what the building looks like from the outside? Big brown box that kind of floats over a green mound. If you're coming south on 71 early in the morning when there's still a little bit of haze, and you squint your eyes, it's supposed to look like an 1812 fort. So that's kind of what it's supposed to look like. The archives library is the entire brown tiled box. So what you are in is just the third level of this building. There are two levels above us that are entirely storage. They are on stories they're not as high as this one. The floors are set a little bit closer because we don't want to use ladders to get up and down on things, so they kind of cut off at about 7 feet. But all of the collections are stored there. Everything behind the scenes. What you see out in the reading room is 0.01% of the total contents of our collections. So it is literally a drop in the bucket. What you're seeing is only books, and it's really the high-use books that we have. So a lot of the collections in this room are geared towards the majority of the population who are coming to do research, and they're looking for information on Ohioans, on individuals who lived in this state. So we break the collections down into what we call traffic areas. We've got the county history section, which is geographically organized. You know what county? It's Adams through Wyandotte, and everything we have for a particular county that's about the people in that county is going to be on the open shelves there. So you could just walk up, you can get a published county history, you can get cemetery indexes, you can get court record indexes, newspaper indexes. If we've got it for a particular county, that's where it's going to be. If you're interested in covered bridges of Holmes County, that material is going to be in the stacks. And town histories and little village histories, or histories of particular events that happened in towns, like the Xenia tornado or the Battle of Buffington Island. The books about those smaller events or geographical areas are going to be stored in the stacks. So there's a whole lot of material that's just behind the scenes, and my staff goes and gets it for you on demand, which makes your job a little bit harder, because unlike a regular public library where you can say, okay, well, I'm interested in Italian cooking, and you just go to the 800s and you just kind of wander around until you find the books with the bright red peppers or the tomatoes on the spine, and you say, okay, well, these are the books on Italian cooking, and I can just kind of stand here and I can open them up, pull them off the shelf, and see whatever I want. Archives don't really work that way. As you can see as you saw from the stuff that's out on the table in the conference room, even if that stuff was out on open shelves, you wouldn't know what to go to first to actually pull out the information that you need. So you end up having to use the catalog, you end up having to use the reference desk. It's why it's an absolutely mammoth reference desk. It's not that we have this immense ego that we have to have behind the reference desk. We try and make it sort of a visual icon so that people know where to find it. But for the rest of the collections that are in this room, they tend to be sort of, okay, well, I'm interested in X, so I'm going to wander over and see it. The city directories, which are early telephone books, in Ohio, these date from the 18 teens, and they're going to be alphabetical listings of people living in specific communities. They're arranged again alphabetically, Akron through Zanesville, and you can simply wander over, and once you're in a particular city, it's in chronological order, and so you can kind of pick what you want to look at. The rest of the reference collection is really bare bones. We've really kind of put out the things that help the staff with ready reference or context we've kept in the reading room. But the majority of the collections, all the manuscript collections, all the photograph collections, all the really juicy stuff is back in the stacks. One of the reasons for that is that this room forced skylights. It heats up, it's very bright. It's our responsibility as permanent curators and your responsibility as temporary curators to be mindful of that and say, okay, well, we really don't want the really precious stuff stored out here in the bright light with the sunshine beaming down on it if we can possibly help it. Now, the conservator, you can see as you look around the stacks, there are things in boxes. There are things in gray phase boxes that look like this. Some of them are tan, some of them are gray. This is what's in conservation land called a phase box. It's a phase box because it's built around the book in phases so that it fits as tightly as possible. The book itself doesn't slide around in here. This is the biggest red light we could possibly come up with for collections. This tells you that whatever's inside this is falling apart. Handle with care. Please don't drop it. It's probably already been dropped, and that's why it got put in the box anyway. It's in a cast, basically. It's been immobilized. So when you get a book like this, take it to a table and unwrap, lay it on the table, and unwrap the little posts. Open up all the phases, or as one of my staff used to refer to it as, the cardboard diaper, because that's basically what it is. And at this point, you'll start to see evidence of why this book is in this particular cardboard diaper. It's really falling apart. It's pretty much had it. Why do we keep it out in the reading room? Why would we even bother to keep something that's in this horrible condition out where people can touch it? Anybody?
Probably a good source of, a good resource.
Exactly. It's irreplaceable as a source of information. And we have it on microfilm. We won't let you photocopy this. We'll make you make a photocopy of it off the microfilm so that this doesn't ever go back behind the scenes and get handled in any way other than you're looking at it. But this might have your ancestor in it. This might have the guy that you're writing your paper about in it. And we want you to be able to interact with it. And if you can only ever interact with the microfilm, well, then that puts a whole plastic screen in between you and the artifact that's documenting your family member or your person. And we're kind of against that. But we have this sort of love-hate relationship with the conservation people, because as far as they're concerned, everything should be in these boxes. And every book that you look at, you should have to completely rewind every time you want to look at something. And quite frankly, it drives the reference staff nuts to have to constantly unwind every book that somebody wants to do. So as you can see, quite a lot of the books have those specialized covers. Quite a lot of the books, however, don't. I mean, if we just don't have all of our collections on microfilm. There's a limit to how much we've got. So when things truly do fall apart, we put them on microfilm. We might get a copy of them, a republished copy that was done as part of a photographic or a photocopying type of publishing. But in many cases, we'll keep the original out as long as possible so that you get to touch. These books were published in the middle of the night, toward the end of the 19th century. So they're over 100 years old. They have a right to fall apart. They've had a hard life, but it's our job not to make it much harder than it has to be.